Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Teaching Tax Flow podcast, episode 150, the big 150. Even though somebody that co-hosts this with me did turn 50 not too long ago, we are on a completely different topic here. And as promised, we have something a little bit special for you that you probably don't expect from us, although you may expect anything from us at this point, episode 150. But before we get into it, as always, let's take a brief moment and thank our episode sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Wealth Builders Mortgage Group, powered by Movement Mortgage, one of the top mortgage teams in the nation and a powerhouse in the real estate investing world. With over $1.1 billion in closed mortgage volume and more than 3,000 investor deals under their belt, they don't just talk the talk, they walk it. Their team specializes in helping short-term and long-term rental investors scale smart with customized lending strategies. They offer all STR loan products, including second home, investment, non-QM, bank statement, asset-based, and HELOCs. They also offer all primary home loan products too. Whether you're just starting out or expanding an existing portfolio, their unique Path of 10 strategy is designed to help you move from a 9-to-5 job to financial independence. If you're looking for a lending partner who truly understands the investor mindset, visit wealthbuildersmortgagegroup.com and start building your roadmap today.
Here we are, episode 150. Not only did we survive 150 of these, but you did too, because we know you've listened to every one of them since the dawn or the beginning of TTF time. I guess we can call it that. And we're going to get into that, how we started this briefly. But on this topic, again, very different than you're used to, we're going to look back. We're going to go really, really far back. And to explain exactly what we're going to do here, you're not going to hear from me right now. Chris Picciurro, welcome back, sir. You've been with me since the beginning. I've been with you since the beginning. It's what do you call it? Yin and yang, I guess, that makes this work. But what's happening, man? How you doing?
It is episode 150. We wanted to do something very special for our listeners and now viewers. If you've joined us at episode 100, we ended up moving or adding, I should say, and the video version of this podcast to YouTube. We've crossed over well over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, increased our viewership and listenership since then. So we truly appreciate that. That means the world to us for episode 100. So that was a big whoop-de-doo. And in episode 150, we wanted to do something special for our Teaching Tax Flow community. And we understand that many people have started joining or subscribing to this podcast, subscribing to the YouTube channel, downloading it on all of your major, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, et cetera. But sometimes you pick up a podcast you fall in love with, and maybe it's episode, 120, 130, and you really don't go back and look at all the old ones. Now, there probably are some episodes that would be really valuable to you. So we thought, you know what? We don't really have an exact cadence for how many having special guests. In general, though, we about 1/3 of our episodes we bring in a special guest, and so we wanted to take this time. First of all, say thank you. Second of all, to briefly run through all of the special guests that we've had in the topic and with episode number, so that if something bends your ear a little bit, you can go back and find it instead of going through 150 episodes of content. We again, all of these special guests have been hand selected and been gracious with their time, and we're gonna go through those, and we expect more special guests to come. Now, if something that you hear piques your interest and you're driving or you're out for a walk or a run or you're just at your desk, don't be unsafe driving your vehicle. Jump into, make a note, teachingtaxflow.com/hub, HUB. John will put that in the show notes. From there, you can request more information about any of these special guests, or just jump into our Defeating Taxes private Facebook group, because believe it or not, many of these special guests are members of that Facebook group. That's defeatingtaxes.com. So, or just comment if you are on YouTube. Just comment, and we are diligent about checking and replying to those comments. So again, let's get the ball rolling. 150 episodes. Still can't believe it.
We started on a pizza box too. I know we've mentioned that a couple of times. which actually, so I know we're at 150, right? And we're going to power through these guests and some of these topics we had. We are going to eliminate the ones that we didn't have guests because otherwise we'd be here all day. It would be like sitting in a college lecture for 2.5 hours. But some of these, I mean, really starting back at the first one here, Chris, right? And again, we'll power through these. And this one we'll get into a little bit more than others. We're going back to November of 2022. So if anybody's watching this, you might see me and Chris kind of looking off to the side. We have a list of everything we have here. Uh, where did we start this?
Our first guest,
Where did
yeah,
you
first
find
guest.
this guest at? I
Our
remember
first
her.
guest was episode 4, Crystal Ball, who is a real estate broker in Panama City Beach, Florida. And when we started the podcast, we thought we would have some episodes specifically on real estate markets. We didn't realize the scope of our listenership and viewership was going to be way more than just real estate related. But Crystal did an amazing job talking about short-term rentals in the Panama City Beach area and in prices and in the environment. So Crystal was a great guest. Episode 4. The next episode we had a guest was Brenna Carls of the Mortgage Shop, and she was on episode 6. We're still back in 2022, believe it or not. And we talked about how your lending partner is part of your board of directors and why you need one. You need someone on your board of directors to help with lending, either if you're a business or even an individual looking to buy a home, investment property, et cetera, et cetera.
And when we
So that
started
was
those
really
off
good.
too, Chris, that one was good because we really had a conversation with her about, hey, tax and lending and just finance as a whole. This is kind of how we blended those two together. I remember that one. It was a good one.
Correct. So episode 12, so now we're in 2023. Episode 12 was our next guest, Kirsten Limmer, who is actually a PhD, extremely intelligent individual. Even though she's a PhD, she's a real estate investor, and she created an app called Reps Tracker. Reps Tracker is still one of our podcast sponsors. So if you need help keeping track of your time at all in an IRS compliant way, definitely use that software and let us know. We have a discount code through Teaching Tax Law. But Kirsten talked about, I mean, just this week, I had a conversation with 2 different people and sent them this podcast episode about rep status. That's IRS real estate professional status and material participation and how to pass one of those tests. So Kirsten was a great resource, and that's episode 12. The next episode 14. Now sometimes we have a little bit of a Star Wars theme. We're not complete Star Wars geeks, just slightly. But we talked about something that's very stressful for people. What happens if you get a letter from the IRS or any type of state taxing authority? We called that love letters from Darth Vader. Again, episode 14, a very, very dear friend of mine, a super talented and knowledgeable enrolled agent, Andrew Poulos, out of Atlanta, Georgia, joined us. And John, I know you really like Andrew, and we always like to chat it up with them.
It was great too because you get to hear from somebody who's really in the trenches, like basically just going toe to toe with the IRS on some stuff. But he explains it very
Honestly,
well.
quite frankly, yeah, he's helped people. He's helped me in our private CPA firm with certain IRS cases. He's very knowledgeable. We moved forward to episode 18 was the next the next episode. Now, at that time, this is 2023. One of the topics was still the ERTC, Employee Retention Tax Credits. Now, we know that the IRS is basically said there are no more ERTC claims available. But at that time, so 2.5 years ago, this was still a very hot button topic. We had the dynamic duo of Heidi Henderson and Stacy Deru at that time of Engineer Tax Service. Heidi is still with Engineer Tax Service, and she is a frequent flyer on the Teaching Tax Flow aircraft, and just a huge resource for our community. So
I love that you just referred to it as our aircraft. That's awesome. That is awesome.
I mean, it kind of is, or a community.
TTF Air.
We didn't take too much time to have another special guest on. So episode 18 was ERTC. Episode 20, we went back to looking at that real estate market spotlight. We went around the Emerald Coast from Panama City Beach to Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Had another amazing real estate broker, very knowledgeable guest, Heather Blatz, on. And she not only does real estate, she does coaching. She's got a great following on social media. So we talked about that Fort Walton Beach, Florida real estate market. And I would say on the 2 So that's episode 4 and episode 20, those real estate market spotlights, and we have one more to talk about. Even if you're not thinking about buying in those areas, and we realize those were 3 years ago, it's okay. It's still very good information and insight from high-performing real estate brokers is always a great thing to consider.
Yeah. And I do like that we have a good trend too of picking guests that majority are in warmer climates. There's a few that we've had from up by me, but
Yeah, there's a few
Yes.
out there. I mean, but mostly warmer when you're talking about those vacation homes. In general, there are some colder spots too. So we went right back on the wagon for episode 22. Had another frequent flyer we're going to talk about a little later. Our buddy Scott Maurer. He is from Advanta IRA. We talked about self-directed IRAs and what opportunities exist. And a lot of people don't realize that you can invest in alternative investments and in just various different types of things within your own IRA and self-direct it. So if you're thinking about that, if you've heard about, hey, I want to buy real estate in my IRA or precious metals, check out episode 22. And it was such a good episode. We have Scott back later on, but you're going to have to wait to hear what episode that is for a few minutes here.
yeah.
Back on the wagon, when we're talking about specialized tax services, we had Heidi Henderson with Engineered Tax Service and Stacy Deru. The dynamic duo back on again. We talked about research and development credits, and that was episode 24. Now, that one I think would be very good to listen to because what we know now with OB3, One Big Beautiful Bill Act, research and development expenses there are some changes to that. So I think that if you are in that research and development area or you have a business where you're doing research and development, definitely check out episode 24. Again, reach out if you want those introductions and learning.
And this episode will probably have the longest show notes out of any of them we've done. Because actually what we'll do, Chris, is we'll put, and anybody listening, we're going to put a link to every single one of these podcasts directly in the show notes. So you could just click away. It'll tell you the episode number. So quick reference. We make it easy for you. You don't have to be lazy. You just be efficient.
Yeah, just go on in there. We then the next couple episodes, we brought in people that I work with in my private CPA practice all the time. And, John, as you know, a lot of times we want more listeners, more taxpayers to have access to things that usually a very, very small amount of people would have access to. So episode 26, we had Roger Roundy on from Strategic Associates. Roger is a wealth of knowledge. We talked about private reinsurance programs or the 831B strategy. This is really for business owners that are paying at least $100,000 of federal and state income tax or have $500,000 or more of net income. So that would be if you're in that situation or you know someone in that situation, take a moment and check out episode 26. Came right back on episode 27, so 2 in a row. The studio was getting crowded, and we talked about an alternative investment, alternative investments in general, specifically a wildlife conservation investment with Chris Gilroy, one of the 2 Gilroy brothers that you and I are both have been able to meet personally, get to know, and we actually did a site visit on one of their ranches, believe it or not, outside San Antonio, Texas, from Wildlife Partners. So I bet that that episode we have a lot of people listen to when they're thinking about diversifying and some tax advantage investments. That was episode 27.
And that one's in probably my top 5 favorite ones we've ever done because I knew nothing about it going into it. So we're not going to get into it, but you can listen to it yourself and you'll leave with some wow moments, which is awesome.
We went back to our real estate market spotlight. This our final real estate market spotlight episode was episode number 29. Had my friend Michael Gomez on from Hive. He's a real estate broker. He's a former he still is a musician, but former touring musician in a contemporary Christian band. The guy's a stitch, has a great social media following as well, does property management, renovations. He was actually on a HGTV house renovation show with his wife, Amy. And I really enjoyed watching that. But he joined us and talked through the Nashville market. Now that's about 2.5 years ago. But again, the principles of the market And if you're thinking, gosh, I wish I would have bought in Nashville 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Well, maybe if you listened to that podcast back then, you would have, you would have identified that. But that's episode 29, and maybe you could find the next Nashville. But that was a fun episode. And then, it's pretty rare, John. We went back to back guests, and we were thinking, gosh, we have to stick with the music theme. This is where it started to get revealed that I just might like pickleball a little bit. And I
Oh,
started getting
okay.
into it, right? I've been playing for about 3 years. And so about 2.5 years ago, a good friend of mine, Trevor Turndrup, who is the lead singer of a very, very popular band, national touring band called Moon Taxi. And then one of Tommy Putnam, who is one of his bandmates, joined us. And we talked through, like, why would musicians join a tax podcast, right? But we wanted to talk about the kind of the business of music and also the importance of building that board of directors and talk to people that aren't in the finance world, but have them explain how do they look at tax professionals? How do they look at financial advisors? How do they look at insurance professionals from their eyes? And what establishes trust? So that was episode 30. And we had a great time with them. Um, so
And these are fun too, because we do find a way, like you mentioned, to kind of stitch in tax to these a little bit, right? But also too, it's great because you're getting an insight from other individuals, other professions, and how they view these things, right? So we talk, earlier and a little bit later all the time about a personal board of directors. And I
mhm.
think every guest that we've had on at some point, we've touched on that a little bit, right? Like how certain people play a
Yeah.
part, which is huge, which is absolutely
Absolutely.
huge.
Um, so we came back on to episode 32, had Jeff Hampton on. Now, Jeff has a YouTube. At the time he came on, he was just getting started in his YouTube channel. He's exploded with his YouTube channel. He's an attorney, um, works a lot with real estate, works a lot in the short-term rental space. And that's episode 32. So Jeff Hampton talked through the legal insights for short-term rentals. So remember, at that point, there's 100% bonus depreciation uh, for the 2022 returns. In short-term rentals were really, really hot and heavy. There were lower interest rates at that time, and Jeff did a great job talking through the legal part of short-term rental properties. 2023 in July 2023. I think this episode actually came out on July 4th, Independence Day, which we came back on episode 38. Brought our buddy Andrew Poulos back. Sure it was really hot and steamy in Atlanta, Georgia that summer, but he still joined us. And I feel like I remember recording this. We didn't film at that time. And the funny thing, John, is I don't know if you remember this, but I think we recorded either this one or the other one. I was actually up in your neck of the woods in Chelsea.
Yeah,
And the air
we were
conditioning wasn't
together.
working, and the office I was set up in, I'm not kidding, it was over 80 degrees out. I was in the building, I was sweating like a pig at the slaughterhouse.
We were cooking, man, and it was funny with that one too. I remember that very, very
Oh,
vividly. Giant window, really hot day abnormally here. AC wasn't working very good. And yeah, there's a lot of hot air coming out of me and Chris when we start talking about some of this stuff. So it got
whew.
warmer and warmer and warmer.
But Andrew came back on. There was talking about the IRS notices was a great episode, and we wanted to hear some war stories. And he did a great job talking through some war stories. And then took about a month break, and we had Brenna Carls from the mortgage shop back on in episode 42, and to talk about mortgage prep 101. So how are you preparing yourself before you apply for a mortgage to put yourself in the best light possible? The next episode 43, went back to one of my buddies from the pickleball course. John, I've got a real quick story about Dave Alger. So Dave Alger has a podcast that he talks about money tips for kids. And we did a money tips for teens episode, empowering parents on how to talk to their teens and children about money. That's episode 43. True story. I don't think I told you this, John, but about a week or so ago, my youngest son, played in a baseball tournament in Pigeon Forge and Tennessee. Of course, I went and played pickleball in the morning in just some random court. It was actually Sevierville City Court. I show up, didn't know a soul. Guess who's there? Dave Alger. And we're in the same league back in Franklin, Tennessee, 3.5 hours away. He just pops up on this random court. It was so fun. and I was like, "Oh my gosh, how crazy was that?"
Of all
So
places too. Did you know that's actually where me and, my wife, Stacy, took our delayed honeymoon was there
yes,
Mhm. With
well,
our
I'm sure
dog.
love was in the air, John. Such
Yeah,
a
she hadn't killed
romantic
me
guy.
yet, so that's a plus, you know, we're
So that's yeah, it's a great spot. So money tips for teens. Then we had and a lot of these topics are really driven by that defeating taxes private Facebook group. We've seen this group grow well over 2,000 people. I think we're almost like 2,500 people in the group now, and that drives a lot of our questions. So took a little break, about a month break from guests. Came back with a very complicated topic. We talked to Jason Mall, who's a CPA here in Middle Tennessee and a friend of the program. You and I like him a lot. We've worked together on mutual clients. He's got a really great firm that he operates. But we had him come in and talk specifically about employment classification from a tax perspective, that W-2 versus 1099. And for any of the tax professionals listening or watching, you cringe when you hear that I'm a W-2 employee, I'm a 1099 employee. No, you can't be a 1099 employee. You can't be a W-2 contractor. You're either one or the other. So Jason really did a great job breaking that down on
we're
episode
gonna hoo
40.
we, sir, are gonna hook a blood pressure monitor to you one time, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you a bunch of questions, and this is one of the ones that I know I can at least raise yours by 10% just by saying that.
There's a pretty good chance. Well, one of the three laws of teaching tax flow is that tax agencies are our involuntary business partner. Tax laws are written to encourage and discourage certain behavior. That's a mouthful. However, episode 49, we're like, let's go behind the curtain. And we did an episode called How Taxes Are Made. We had an awesome guest that John, unfortunately, you had your, speaking of your honeymoon, you had your wedding anniversary, but I got to see LaShawn Thomas. LaShawn works in Michigan with the Michigan Association of CPAs as a government relations expert. And she took us behind the curtain talking through how taxes are made, how bills are passed. And that was awesome. That was very insightful.
Great person and a great topic, and I remember the day that we actually met her. It was at an event, we're just sitting down there during a happy hour or something talking, and I remember she must have assumed that, I was a CPA or something, and I'm just sitting there kinda nodding my head, and then she told me what she does. I'm like, "What? Like, what do you mean? Like, how do they go hand in hand?" So listen to that episode if you guys wanna hear a little bit more, again, behind the scenes. That was great.
And then the next episode, we had another tax professional, John Neal, out of Wisconsin, very knowledgeable, and he has really grown his social media presence and content. And he works a lot with small businesses, or I should say, new businesses, and talked through why businesses fail. I want to say he's probably got at least 30, maybe 40 years of experience. I can't remember exactly, but he was a really very knowledgeable guest. That's episode number 50. Then we took quite a long break, about almost a 3-month break from having guests on, and then jumped back in and had our girl Heidi Henderson, another frequent flyer, on the TTF airplane.
People are gonna
Um,
start thinking we blackmailed her into coming back on with us because she's on more than I think anybody.
she's a great guest, but she talked through cost segregation studies. That's something we talk about almost on a weekly basis in our private CPA practice. So we talk to her about cost segregation studies. So definitely, that's still an episode I send to many people to educate themselves, and that's episode 62 back in December of 2023. I took about a month break, and guess what happened? There's this law called the Corporate Transparency Act, create a bunch of just a bunch of issues, a bunch of content. We had Jeff Hampton from Hampton Law back on to talk about that Corporate Transparency Act. Since then, the CTA, what we call it, it's gone. Unless you have owners of a foreign business, you have no Corporate Transparency Act filing requirements. But at the time was a very, very high stress, um, topic.
That was
Um,
probably even in my marketing career, right? Like CTA to me is always call to action. I kept hearing this CTA, and this is the one that's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. It
yeah.
feels like it would change like the stock market. Is it gonna happen?
Oh,
Is it
it
not? Is
did.
it gonna? What's gonna go? It was
It did.
interesting.
I mean, yeah, it was there, but it bounced back and forth a million times. It's like watching someone told me it's like watching a tennis match, like back and forth. Um, Our man Andrew Poulos, we should send him some flowers or something. Probably maybe a box of chocolates. I don't know. He came back on because we talked about the IRS. The IRS was changing. And we did a 2024 IRS update. And that's episode 68. Went and then took a break from guests for a month and went back to a guest, episode 72. You know, John, I feel very strongly that bookkeeping is the heart of any business. Without good books, you can't do any type of projections and you can't do any type of tax planning. Very dear friend of both of ours, Lisa McCarthy of Out of the Box Technology, came on and talked. We called it Bookkeeping 101, the real deal. That episode 72 is a timeless one. So some of these, quite frankly, are very time sensitive, like that Corporate Transparency Act. Hey, if you want to listen to it, please go listen. But I don't see a purpose of no real big reason to listen now. The 2024 IRS update, maybe you just love listening to Andrew speak, which is great, but it doesn't have much relevance today. This Bookkeeping 101 is something that still is relevant today. And then followed that back up a few weeks later. A special guest, Caitlin Rummel, EH Business, talking through 1099s. Now, Jason Mall came on and talked about the difference between a independent contractor and employee. If you're an independent contractor, they get issued 1099s. We had Caitlin come in, who's a bookkeeper extraordinaire, and talk through the what, the when, and the how they are issued for 1099s. And that was episode 75. Now, you mentioned someone turned 50 this year. Guess what? It was me. And 75. So whenever I play pickleball, the guy, people I play with probably never listen or watch this. I always say if the score is 7-5, I always say 7-5, good year, because that's my birth year. So that was episode 75.
And these, Chris, a lot too. I mean, I know we mentioned it all the time, right? And you mentioned a little bit too. Some of these are a lot more of a deeper dive into a topic, and some are a little bit more high level. So if somebody's kind of caught on this, oh, well, you're talking about some of the stuff, but you feel like you've already mentioned it, they do all kind of tie together. And that's the glorious part I think about is doing these weekly, right? Is we could dive in deep on some, we can stay high level on others. Really, we have full autonomy to dive in as deep as we want. And as mentioned, right, a lot of this is kind of community driven. So we look at it and we're more answering questions on these, just having a discussion around it, than us trying to preach anything. If this is anybody's first episode they've ever listened to, this is completely different than what we normally talk about. But I digress.
Episode 77, we talked. So one topic that's been popular, our short-term rental tax loophole. So we had Arda Burken come in from that is very experienced in managing short-term rental properties, and he gave us some insights on what the short-term rental property or short-term loophole is, and he actually gave us some good tips all on staging properties, picking like what location they should be in, and that sort of stuff. So that was great. That was episode 77. Came back on to episode 80. Modern Payroll 101. Will Lopez of, at that time, Gusto Payroll. That was really good. That anyone that's setting up payroll or thinking about paying a child or a spouse and's never had payroll for their business, definitely wants to listen to that episode. So that was episode 80.
And that's on one of my top ones too, because we talked about how payroll, if I'm not going to get it exactly right, how payroll is actually a huge component of culture, if I remember correctly too, not just paying somebody. There's a lot more to it. So that was a great one.
Yeah. And then we went back, episode 83. Our dear friend Brooke Aker, certified financial planner, a Wealth Reimagined Group, talked through LTC, long-term care. Can you believe that was in May of 2024? That I feel like we just recorded that episode.
So do I.
It's really crazy.
Probably because me and you were both just in Brooke's office not too long ago.
That's true. So she lends us her office whenever we're both in the Detroit area, and she's a big friend of the program.
And Brooke, if you listen to us, if you decide not to lend it to us one day, we're just going to break in. So,
or we'll just go back on this episode and delete the last 35 seconds.
We'll fix it. So,
fix it in the post. So, and then after the Brookster, episode 85, we want to talk through a 1031 exchange update with Scott Saunders, API. So the Asset Preservation Inc. Scott is, absolutely amazing guest. He knows 1031 exchanges better than anyone I've ever talked to. And spoiler alert, We have him back on later. But that was great. So anyone considering a 1031 exchange, this is another one of those timeless ones. Episode 85. Came back on episode 87, had another friend of mine I actually went to high school with. Really good guy, Jim Cunningham. He's an attorney, specializes in business transactions, specifically mergers and acquisitions. And we had him come on and we talked about the tax and legal considerations when selling a business. And this is another episode that's pretty timeless for people that are considering exiting or people that are even if someone's considering buying. I was talking to a prospective client about him buying a business. And I said, why don't you listen to this podcast episode? Because you're going to get that feel of what the seller's thinking, right? So there, it's always good to know both sides of things. And then came back to episode 89, had a good friend, another pickleball player, but just a good friend, Bill Allen, come on. He's got a great social media following also, very passionate about real estate, runs just tons of stuff within real estate.
On a positive note too, if we ever get a TTF plane, there's our pilot.
Oh, exactly. Yes. So that was episode 89. If you're even thinking about investing in real estate, definitely listen to episode 89 with Bill Allen. Bounced back with episode 95. So we took a little break from guests, and we, know in a lot of 1031 exchange, and we've heard about DSTs, which were, Delaware Statutory Trust, which we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. But there's another DST, Deferred Sales Trust. And we had Todd Jackson on, Jackson Law here. He's actually based in Franklin, Tennessee. Extremely, I feel like I keep repeating myself, but we don't have guests on unless they are rock stars. So episode 95, that's another timeless one. Anyone that's thinking about selling real estate or really any type of business asset that is looking to spread the tax over several years, a deferred sales trust might make sense for you. So that's one you want to listen to. Episode 99, we had Angelina Urquhart on from CorpNet. We did talk about the Corporate Transparency Act again because there's, of course, more changes. At this point, that's real. Angelina is a great resource. She helps a lot of people form LLCs, acts as a registered agent with CorpNet. However, Corporate Transparency Act is not.
I think right about that point, or not long after, right, the hole was already dug 6 feet under, just to throw CTA into.
Yeah, it was getting close there. And then episode 100 was our big celebration, and we did it on YouTube. We launched YouTube, came back on episode 101, had another good friend of the program, Caden Gunnell, also Strategic Associates. Caden's much more handsome than Roger. Hopefully Roger doesn't listen to this and be good if I not. They're both good looking guys, but Caden's a great guy. I personally work with him on a weekly basis, in the private CPA firm world. Talked about leveraged charitable giving. That's been a very popular episode, and I think timeless as well. So that's episode 101, leveraged charitable giving.
Thanks to Ken for being the first one on video, besides me and you. So
I know.
Kicked it off. All right.
Pretty good. And then, John, actually, we had there was a topic I wanted to tackle for for quite a few months, and we tackled in episode 104. We had a friend of yours come on, Chrissy Siders, talking through the difference between banks and credit unions, and I found that pretty insightful, actually.
Yeah, it was great. And Chrissy always stood out to me, right? Being up here in Michigan, if you were to ever meet her out in the wild, right, like out in public, you would never pin her as a banker, which is why I think it's great. She's not your average bank person, but that was a great topic. And I feel like we dove into it in like so many different levels and, what the differences are, what the pluses, and I wouldn't say pros and cons, but how they differ.
Absolutely. It was really good. Because I didn't know as much about credit unions and when is a bank or credit union best for someone. And then a few episodes later, another dear friend of ours, and actually, I believe there's going to be some content coming at Teaching Tax Flow YouTube channel. A fellow tax professional out of Pennsylvania, and like I said, dear friend Kelly Bender, and from Life, I believe she's got Life Untaxed, and she did a great job. She talked through navigating the business life cycle. So she and her family run a great tax and accounting firm again, in Pennsylvania, that is very holistic. So they do the bookkeeping and the payroll, and it was really neat to see her insight
And
on
about
that.
4 months later, we obviously we had her back, which we'll get into. And that one, the next one we have with her is probably my favorite episode ever. I'll
Interesting.
throw
Okay,
that
that's
out.
cool. Then episode 110, we had Duke Alexander Moore come on, an enrolled agent, just tons of energy. And it was talking about influencers and content creators, tax planning, bookkeeping. But Duke has millions of followers on social media. Again, he's a very dynamic tax professional, someone that I was lucky enough to meet and hang out with, actually in Manhattan, in New York City. Gosh, before, yeah, I think that was the
Maybe
year
like mid
before or something. I
24?
don't even remember. It was a while, year or two ago, probably a couple years ago, with the Intuit Connect. He was the MC for that event, and I was very fortunate to be a panelist there. So I got to meet him in person, and then we've been in contact. We've actually talked through different tax planning ideas, and to have him on the podcast was awesome, man. If you need an energy boost, you don't need a coffee. Just check out episode 110. That's
It's a great way to put that one. Absolutely.
That's for sure. Took up now episode 112. We talked about capital loss harvesting strategies with Alex Caswell and Alex and his associate Colby Davis. And Alex is a financial advisor and based on the West Coast. Another person I work with a lot on mutual clients in the private CPA practice. And he did an amazing job just talking about an advanced capital loss harvesting strategy. So if you have a large capital gain, I at times send this to people as well. A lot of times people say, "Oh, I got this big gain. I don't know what to do with it. I don't have any losses." Just trust me. Check out episode 112. Then took a little break, went back to Michigan for a guest, a CPA, Karina Miller. She is so knowledgeable. I know I really enjoyed this episode, and we talked about taxes in the cannabis industry. Again, maybe not the largest reach as far
Yeah.
as people listening. However, absolutely timeless. And Karina it's just, I mean, that's her wheelhouse. That's your go-to if you yourself or know anyone in the cannabis industry and need any type of accounting, tax, payroll, whatever you need, she and her team are your people. No doubt about it. And then episode 121, like you just mentioned, we had Kelly Bender back on, and another topic we've been trying to, should I say, cultivate. I guess we're going through cannabis to farm tax. So
Well, we went from harvesting to cannabis to farm.
yeah. So Karina or not Kelly Bender came back on. I don't know if I feel like we laughed half that episode just because she's so fun.
Oh, it was great. And I think why I like it so much too is, I mean, that might be the episode we drop more dad jokes in than anything. And it was great. I mean, what a great, and obviously we covered a lot of good topics, but it was interesting. A lot of things that you don't think about with the farming and ag world.
Absolutely. It was really good. So farm tax was great. So if you're a farmer or know a farmer, episode 121 took about a month break. Episode 125, Warren Thomas from Exchange Rates. I mean, I keep repeating myself, extremely knowledgeable, but talk through Delaware statutory trust, which could be used in a 1031 exchange. I mean, in Exchange Rate, they do a great job. I know you've met some people from there as well. When you were in town, and they happen to be in town, and but Warren did an amazing job. And so anyone thinking about, again, that 1031 exchange or Delaware statutory trust, if you've heard of the DST, that episode's for you. That's episode 120. That's another timeless one. I can't tell you how many times I've sent that to people.
And that's the other DST.
Yes, that's the other DST.
So-
And then episode 127, another topic we wanted to tackle for a long time was Social Security. So Rob Sorens is a financial advisor I work with as well in the private CPA practice. And Rob is really knows his stuff. I actually went to a couple live in-person presentations that he did here locally in the Franklin, Tennessee area, and I was super impressed with his knowledge. So we had him come in and talk about Social Security. how to claim it, when to claim it, when to claim it off of your spouse's record, when to claim it off of your record. That's another timeless one. So it's episode 127. And you might be thinking, I'm not close to Social Security age yet. I'm telling you, take a few minutes and check that podcast out. Episode 129, we had Court Pitcher on, and Court is a blast too. Another just rock star in their industry. And we talked about estate planning 101. We just went with as basic as you can, just talking the difference between a trust and a will. And Court and they I think he did an amazing job.
And that's something too that some people I think have a difficult time of explaining it to where it makes sense to everybody and you don't lose them along the way. He did a great job of that. I remember that one specifically as well, because some of these topics, right, if you're not in it every day and you're not 100% tuned into listening to everything about it, you want to know everything, it's kind of hard for you to mentally tune in. But that was a great one.
Yeah, and so Court is the founder of Legacy Lock. They are a podcast sponsor also. So if you haven't done any type of estate planning yet, and you want someone, to talk to someone, and that's very reasonably priced, doesn't matter what state you live in, I would encourage you to check out Legacy Lock, and please reach out to us because they take really good care of anyone in the teaching tax law community. So want to thank Court on that one. Came back with episode 131. Had our friend Tom Lawney on, talking about infinite banking with whole life insurance strategy that my wife and I use personally, called the Gold Diagnosis in Teaching Tax Flow. And that's episode 131, another timeless one. So it's so nice to have people that I trust and work with often on the podcast as guests. And their content is, like I said, it's timeless. And a lot of clients and just listeners really enjoy it.
And fun fact with that one too, with Tom, if I remember right, he was an audio engineer.
Yeah.
Where he started off, and then he kind of got into his world that he's in now from being able to take advantage of something that somebody set him up with and he kind of forgot about in the past. So that was a great story on how he got in it.
We're back on episode 134, Parker Borofsky of Movement Mortgage. Man, I know she's got maybe you could speak just for a quick minute on her. She's got a whole playlist on her YouTube channel, extremely knowledgeable. We talk through financing your second home, and that could be a snowbird home, that could be a rental property, it could be any type of second home that you're thinking of purchasing.
And you're right, Chris. So there's a whole playlist on our YouTube channel. We coerced Parker into doing this with us. We have a couple, actually a bunch more of these that are coming out. And she's one of the sponsors and the podcast. This is not a paid promotion by any sense, but their approach there is so cool because I wouldn't say that they don't say no to anything, but they're very creative in things. Chris, it's like you. Like if somebody came to you and said, "Oh, you know what? I have a tax question, tax issue, something along those lines," and planning forward, they do the exact same thing in the mortgage world. I mean, that could speak firsthand. It's like, I mean, not from working with them, but like, I hate going to get a mortgage. Like literally, like I say that word very far and few between, but I absolutely hate doing it because I don't like it. I don't want to get into it. I'm irritated before I even start. And she explained some great things. So check out that, those podcasts. I mean, just the discussions, the reels, everything in that playlist is awesome. It's great.
Then we've been another topic, digital asset reporting. So those cryptocurrencies, those EFTs, or not EFTs, those NFTs. Oh man, I'm so lucky to know Tunisia, goes by Ty Gaines. First of all, just had a great time with her just on the podcast, let alone her knowledge. She is an enrolled agent, nationally recognized speaker on digital assets. And she broke down digital asset reporting, such a complex thing in an easy way. And Ty is definitely a friend of the program. And we want to continue to lean in her knowledge moving forward and have more content with her as well. She's great. I mean,
that definitely was a great one too. I think that we had a ton of fun on as well. It was nuts. She tied it all together. There's my dad joke.
What's that? I'm sorry? Oh,
I say she tied it all together.
Yes. Episode 140, we talked about BRRRR method. Now, I was not on this episode for reasons that will go untold. I had a little scheduling faux pas on my part, but I think it was better without me. had Jim Ingersoll on, another, just like Bill Allen, another titan in the real estate industry. Jim's got a huge reach, a huge following. We went to one of their live events this year for the first time. It'll be an annual event for us called Deal Makers. That one's in Richmond, Virginia, but there are Deal Maker chapters all over the country. And Jim really broke down BRRRR method, which is for people that are buying and rehabbing properties and then refinancing them, renting them out, and doing it again. So happy
probably
he
the
came on
best overall group
140.
of people I've ever met at a conference in my entire life.
Yeah, they
Incredible.
are phenomenal. So that's episode 140. Then came back episode 143, which is just a couple months ago or a month or so ago. About a month ago. Had
Yeah.
Curtis McCullum on talking about the mindset and money. And Curtis is he was a financial advisor, but now is a mindset coach and just helps people find their blind spots financially and in life. And he's very impactful. So that was great. And definitely, hope that he's been able to connect and meet with people in this community based on that. And I really enjoyed that episode. Then guess what happened? The One Big Beautiful Bill Act was passed on July 4th. Okay. I have to pivot, right? So on episode 145, got Scott Saunders back. API, right?
He avoided us for a year, and then we got him back.
Yeah, he might be a 2 year. No, it was a year, a little over a year. Yeah, came back from his hiatus from us, and talked about the One Big Beautiful Bill, or OB3 Act, as far as real estate investment opportunities. Now Scott is with API and Asset Preservation Inc. They do specialize in 1031 exchanges, but Scott broke down all types of real estate opportunities within OB3. Check that one out. If you're remotely interested in real estate, check out episode 145, as well as Jim Ingersoll's at 140, and then Bill Allen's episode at 89. Final guest, episode 148. Another topic we've been waiting for a perfect guest for. Brady Weller was the perfect guest to talk through a Section 1202 stock, or what is also known as QSBS, Qualified Small Business Stock, and how you can, if you're a business owner, potentially avoid millions and millions of dollars of taxable income when you sell your business. And that's episode 148. And that, I can't believe, I feel like we just hit episode 100. It's so funny so some of these seem like yesterday and some of these seem like a long time ago. And I really don't know why. Like, it's just
I remember that first one. I remember recording that first one that we did the video 100, even though we recorded them all on video, we just didn't use it. But yeah, it seems like it was just maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah,
it flew by, man. And looking at all these topics, kind of going through them, it's very rare, if ever, we've ever actually done this and gone through all the ones. And these are just the ones with guests.
The first one.
These are not the topics that we even touched with. And there was a couple other ones in there, but overall, like, what a ride, man. What a good, and there's no reason to slow down.
I can't wait to see where we're at after 200 episodes, and we're going to keep rocking and rolling. I know this is a longer episode, but thank you for sticking in there. And think about this. Guess what, guys? Listening to this and cataloging the episodes with guests is a little easier than the Dewey Decimal System. And if you know what that is, you're in my age bracket. But yes, thank you so much for everyone in this community. Thank you. I genuinely mean this. Like, every download, every listen, every comment is appreciated, and it really fuels our fire to build a tax planning and strategy community. It's something that doesn't exist, in my opinion, out there that we need.
Absolutely. Well, this is awesome. I'm glad we did this. I know it was kind of, like you mentioned, a little bit longer, but yeah, we will see everybody back here again next week. Completely different topic, but we'll keep the train going. And you know what? You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here because we're out. On to episode 151 next week. We'll see everybody. Have a great week. Questions, drop us a line. And remember, show notes, wherever you're listening to, it's either here or here. I've seen it on this side, most likely there. There's a link to every one of these. So if you heard something resonates with you a little bit, click on it, listen to it, kick up the speed if you want to hear me and Chris sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. If you want to hear a really good time listening to it. But check it out. Any questions, let us know. If you want to get in touch with anybody specific, let us know. We're happy to make the connection, reach out to them directly. That's what we're here for. That is our sole purpose of doing this. So we love it. We love the questions. Have a great week, as I mentioned. We'll see you back here soon.
The content provided is for educational purposes only. We encourage you to seek personalized investment advice from your financial professional. For all tax and legal advice, please consult your CPA or attorney. Investment advisory services are offered through Cabin Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cabin Securities, a registered broker-dealer. The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer of securities. Offerings can only be made through an offering memorandum, and you should carefully examine the risk factors and other information contained in the memorandum.